Alright, so we're out working on the generator box. The ETX here was still pretty difficult even after the valve job I gave it the other day, so I'm gonna take the head off and check to see if there's that burn spot back in the intake valve, because I think it's whiffing back through there, and then I'll have to figure out a way to either grind more aggressively on that valve or see about maybe trading the intake and the exhaust valve and keeping the springs in the same spot. But step one, get this off and check it out. See if it's still burning. So there's our push rod thing. Another thing that happened, I was gonna hook up the EM2 because the EM2 is running real nice, and we have the generator working this morning, but the fuel line on the EM2 was split, so I'm trimming it back before the split on it so it maybe can get salvaged for a bit, but I need to order a new fuel line for the EM2. So pull those and flip this over, and nope, our valve seat looks good in there. We've got a ton of oil and slop inside this engine though, so it's definitely getting plenty of lubrication. The other thing that I thought I would do something with since I've got this open is these edges here that are dinged up. I brought a flat file down, and I'm just going to try and run that there. Use it to deburr and immediately get a rag down in there to wipe. Because there wasn't much that got put in there, and oh yeah, there is more than enough carbon on top of here, but there, I think that tiny bit being enough to get those burrs off the top of the cylinder liner. And that means that our head gasket should seal better, and hopefully without those pressure points, a better sealing head gasket will also help this engine. But yeah, so there we go. Alright, so we'll just pop this back together then. Just give it a quick check. And then I'm going to see about getting good, nice fresh fuel for further testing, because I don't actually know how old a lot of my fuel is, and I've had so much of it around that because when I got these, I was trying out a couple different kinds of fuel, and then I had that request to try the nitromethane, which worked okay, but certainly isn't as good in ignition as just because it needs to have much higher operating temperature to keep it from or to keep it working well. And these engines just don't run hot enough for nitromethane to be a good option. So, alright. Those are the finger tight. And now and I know it looks like I'm turning really hard, but I'm not. I'm just basically snugging these up and then putting back, going around again to see if any of them loosen, but because you want to get the, you of course want to get everything nice and tight, but the small fittings, small screws, and the aluminum all add up to a easy opportunity to strip stuff. So, alright, we inspected that. Since I did that valve job on the ETX, I thought it's been a while since I opened the ET1 up and checked in on it, so we're going to take the head off the ET1 here, and perfect. I got lucky, I set my camera up right where I wanted it to be so that I'm not accidentally moving things out of shot when I'm trying to get at them. So, anyhow, let's see. Well, this plug is very oily. So, alright, that plug is real oily, so I might have to consider running cleaner fuel, unmixed fuel through this for a little bit. Or remembering to clean the plug off real good. So, now when I do these engines with the head to the side like this, notice I take all the screws out except for the top one, and that way the head hangs nicely off the side of the engine until you're ready to take it off. If you take the top screw out first, then every other screw you take out, the head's going to try to wander around, and you're not going to have to hold it the whole time. But if you leave the top screw in place until you're ready to pull it off, then gravity gives you a hand. So, oh yeah, ton of carbon in there. So give that a wipe. Oh, it cleaned up a lot nicer than the ETX did. Here's my brass muffler, and I have that gap in there, and when I just cut this and bent it, I thought I was going to figure out a way to fill that, but I haven't thought of a way to do it without it looking like I put a gob of JB Weld or something on there, and I don't want that look. I just want it to, you know, be a nice brass exhaust pipe, so, or copper exhaust pipe, so I've just left it and let it huff away like that. Now, inspect our seats there. That seat's good, and that intake valve seat looks good. There's no burn on the inside the way that the ETX had a burn from backfiring into it, so yeah. Excellent. Now we'll just get our head gasket. Oh, I put sealant on this head gasket the last time I put it on. So that head gasket is staying put because it's got sealant on that side of it. But we'll wipe the inside out there. You can see the head of the piston has that carbon, and the valves, so this carbon is right in front of the ignition because we got the intake valve sits there, the exhaust valve sits there, and the spark plug sits right up there. So but otherwise nice and clean in there. So excellent. So we'll just pop this back on after a quick cleaning, and that should help it run better. So when we're using the generator, and I'm real excited it's finally working. Remember, we were getting almost an amp out of the generator number 1 on the ET1 here, and I got about an amp out of the ETX, so these are putting out, you know, 4 or 5 watts, which means I should be able to get at 5 volts. I should be able to get some, well, it's running at 5 volts, so I should be able to hook up the ignition modules to the generator to have the engines power themselves, but also that 4 or 5 watts is quite a bit of power for running like LEDs, so I could possibly put together a nifty, alright, head gasket pattern. 1 across, there we go. Check, nothing has gotten loose. So that's that. Yeah, that plug got real oily, but we'll pop that in, and then there. plug in, and next I gotta find a piece of fuel tank hose, hard plastic fuel hose to keep this from slipping, because I kept noticing this boot slips up like that, and as soon as it gets far enough that it won't, the wire can't get arc to the plug, then of course the engine doesn't want to run. So oh, and this is also that boot that had the pinhole in it, and I covered it in the liquid electrical tape. I don't know how well that shows, because see how close we get here. Anyhow, I put a layer of liquid electrical tape on this boot to insulate it, but that layer is coming off of the boot now too, so this boot is pretty shot. I'll have to, in fact, I'm just going to peel this whole layer off of there. So that's the liquid electrical tape layer that I had on there, and then that's the boot. So maybe I can do something clever now. Put a wire spring band on the boot so it'll clip in place, and then I don't know, we'll figure something out. Probably just get a piece of the fuel hose like the ET8 has, if this wire is long enough to reach there, because that's the other thing, the way it runs, it doesn't quite have enough to bend all the way around, but we'll see. But that'll be a thing to figure out later. For now, we've cleaned these up, and the generator box is making useful power, so yeah, we'll try to do some more testing with the generator box the next time we get out.